So welcome to a rather dusty and smoky Thursday on the Pagan Perspective. I'm your Thursday host, Yeka, and this week we're talking about the Greek philosophers and paganism. So, excuse me while I look down to read the question. Now, it has a rather long intro, which I'm not going to read all of, but if you're interested, it is in the description box below. Now, the part of the question that we're responding to is the text of Greek intellectuals like Plato, Homer, Aristotle, Epicurus, etc. are classified as philosophy books, but I consider them pagan religious books. Would you also consider such rich sources of pagan theology religious books too? And do you incorporate any of their content into your beliefs? So, a couple of things to talk about in there. Personally, I suspect why they are considered to be philosophy as opposed to religion. You know, there's a lot of definitions in there, but they were influential throughout many centuries, and especially to many early Christian philosophers. And so I think it would probably be less threatening to think of it as philosophy than religion for a different religion. That's just a guess. But to get to the question itself, I think it's kind of cool to consider them as religious texts. I personally don't use them that way because I don't have any sort of drawing or attraction or like emotional connection to the Greeks or that part of the world or time period, really. But I do think that a lot of their ideas have profoundly impacted me. Not in the sense that, like many people, I did take philosophy and ethics in my undergrad, and so I was exposed to the ideas. But the way that I think that they influenced me was not something that I consciously chose, but because many of those ideas have been influential throughout the development of Western culture. And being a member of Western culture, I am a product, in part, of those ideas. So, specifically, I am aware of, in terms of Plato coming down the lines to Neoplatonism, Neoplatonic ideas, and Aristotle. I'm not as sure about the other ones that are listed in this question, but they have had influences in a lot of early Christian thought, which, of course, as I mentioned, influenced Western society as a whole. Aristotle had a lot of influence in the development of the scientific culture, we could call it, which, of course, that's what my formal training is in. So I think that that's definitely impacted me, and I think it's really interesting how people and different ideas can be woven together over time and continue to persist even though we might not be very conscious of it. And it's in the same way that I would think that Protestantism has probably deeply affected me and my views despite not being a Protestant, let alone despite not being a Christian. We are influenced by the cultures and the culture that we live in. And when we want to make different choices outside of the norm of what we were raised with, it takes a lot of effort and thought and self-education. So, I really don't know a lot very much about how these particular individuals and their writings mentioned. I don't know very much about them. So, for me to find what it was that they contributed would take a lot of research, which is an interesting idea. And then a lot of very conscious thought to decide if that's something that I'd want to hold on to or let go of. And not just with them, with so many different cultures and ideas that have influenced the culture that I grew up in. But I do think self-reflection is important, to try and figure out what ideas we did inherit and what we want to hold on to. So I know that kind of took a little bit of a different direction than what the question was, but that's really what came up for me that I could contribute to the conversation with it. So it's pretty chilly. I'm going to head inside and hopefully get this uploaded for you in a little bit. And subs-week next week. So until April, I suppose. All right, take care.